everyone. My name is Hannah Bothner. I am the short film program director for Tallgrass Film Festival. And today we are speaking with Jefferson Stein and Liz Cardenas. Liz is the producer and Jefferson is the writer director of the short film Burros. Thanks so much for being here with us.
Thanks for having us. We're excited.
Yay. Well, gosh, we just absolutely adored your film. So I'm going to start out by what was the inspiration for making your film? What was the reason that you wanted to make this film?
I think the reason I really want to make this specific film was after discovering this community. I really wanted to make a border story. Liz and I are both from Texas, and I found this community, and Liz and I would drive from LA the 8.5 hours in my little car through the desert to meet with them. And we really formed a connection, and it took many months of research, and even before that, research about the issues, and then going down there and spending time with everyone, and really wanting to make this short film, but then also more projects in the future. I think it's a really unknown part of the world, and a lot of the press and a lot of what is known about the specific area has to do specifically with the border, but there's just so much else going on down there in regards to specifically the Tohono Nation and the border and how that affects their language and culture and all that kind of stuff. And then just the community in general. So we wanted to make something, and we were lucky enough to be able to.
Incredible. Did you cast out of that community, or are there actors in that border town there with the native community there, or did you bring people in?
Yeah, Liz was very involved in the casting. She could probably speak to this.
Yeah, I mean, like Jeff was saying, we spent so much time there and got to know so many people in the community. And so there's a game that's in the movie called Toca, and it's only girls can play it. And so, of girls of all ages. And the little girl in Burros kind of does a makeshift game of, in the film. And so we're like, okay, we can kind of start there. So, we went to a bunch of the different games and kind of met a lot of the moms, grandmothers that oversee the different teams. And we're kind of like, that was kind of like the smaller route to finding our main character who was Indigenous and, not an actress, and she was great. And then we wanted to find the other lead girl. So we went to several elementary schools in Tucson, and we were kind of looking at the schools that were a little bit more like Spanish speaking. And so then we found our girl there who, was like perfect for the role, and also, had never acted either. So the two leads we found that way. And then we did kind of a casting call at the Nation for like our adult actors. But then it was also a series of like meeting people and, and say, hey, would you be interested in this, and seeing if they fit the role. And so, all of our talent were like non-professional actors, which was.
That's incredible. I can't even imagine the undertaking of not only, directing and working with kids to really young girls for the majority of this film, especially when they can't really speak to each other. And then the point of, within the film, but then working with people that really haven't done much acting before. What was that process like on set?
So I have had a lot of experience working with kids and sort of actors with less experience than most, through doing commercials for many years and in my last short. And I think the thing I learned was how important casting is. And if you put in the extra legwork in casting to really, really find the right people, it becomes so much easier on set. I think in terms of just like getting the performance from them, it wasn't as it wasn't like this like struggle where you're like pulling it out of them. They really got it. Either we had scenes where it was all of them together, like with the grandmother and the two of them at the table, where, Virginia, she had, like Liz said, she'd never acted before, and she just like brought it every take, and it was just amazing, and then in some of the other scenes where you have the two dialogue scenes, I would run the lines off camera with one of the girls and just run them like that. So yeah, it wasn't the most challenging. I'll say that wasn't the most challenging part of the project.
Really?
Was like getting the performances. When there were issues, it was like I have a tool set, or we had a tool set, different things we could do to get it. So
what was most challenging? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Liz.
Well, I was just gonna say, it's like, like Jeff was super patient and worked really well with all the actors. The thing that was tough, and this isn't necessarily like, this is kind of adding to what Jeff was saying, that kind of applies to what was difficult, was, you're dealing, like, not only can you only shoot with young girls or young children for a certain amount of time, but they also get worn out. And so it was a balance of managing, because the other thing too is, we're not staying on the nation, so we're having to drive into the nation every day. So that was like hour and a half, in some cases 2 hours, just to get to set. And I would pick up the one of the girls, the girl from Tucson, and her mom, and drive in. So you're already got that much time before you even get to set. And then, it was, monsoon season. We're shooting in the desert. It was so hot. You got to keep that, you got to keep the girls hydrated. We have to watch out for any like snakes or things. And so it was like all these other things of like trying to protect the actresses, these little girls, trying to, and then like in downtime, I would try to do like exercises with them that would almost be like dreaming or meditating, because they're not going to go rest. They want to just continue playing. But if they keep playing through the breaks, they're not going to be able to perform. So it was almost like managing this thing. But when Jeff was actually working with them, it was wonderful, and they were great, and Jeff was great. But it was just the elements that we were dealing with, which we found on the elements even more so, besides the actors. But that's how it related to like working with children,
It logistically probably couldn't have been harder, is what Liz is saying.
Yeah, I was curious about the desert. In the movie, it's supposed to be one of the hottest days, and that's like, a big part of it. I have to imagine that shooting in the desert was very difficult.
Well, it's interesting because in the morning you get to set, and then like, one day where it's pitch dark, and it had monsoon the night before. And we had an amazing crew, but this is one of my favorite stories, is that one of our grips just drove his car like right into, it was basically a lake. Like it was a massive puddle, like 50 feet wide, just drove his car right into it, got out of his car, and just started picking up gear and moving it. Like he just didn't even blink. And it's just like, okay, now we got to it's in the shop, by the way. This is like,
oh my gosh.
Like, all right, now we got to it's like right in front of the house. It's like, okay, so now we got to get this car out of the shot. Let's figure out how to do that.
Oh my gosh.
We had Texas Rangers with us, and it was funny because, again, Jeff and I drove to the nation so many times, met so many people. And then when we actually filmed, I had been traveling, and then I flew in, and he picked me up, and he picks me up at the airport. He's like, okay, so the cartel knows we're here. And so we're gonna have a ranger filming with us. And I'm like, what? But the rangers did come in handy with monsoon season, because we'd be like, okay,
they could pull all the cars. Yeah. We probably got, I think over the course, because Liz and I and Corey lived there for a month before shooting. And so, I think all in all, they probably pulled 20 cars out of the.
Oh my God.
Between them and Border Patrol, who would just randomly find it. One time, Border Patrol just randomly found me and Corey just stuck, luckily, and they just pulled us out. Or just the local tow truck people. I spent so much money on those guys.
They were probably like, come back next year.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness.
yeah, it was an experience. It was definitely an experience.
Well, I hadn't thought about the animal aspect or the insect aspect at all, too. That sounds absolutely terrifying, especially when you're working with young girls. Did you have any close calls of snakes or coyotes? Coyotes? That's
Not
what we got here.
coyotes. I was worried because sometimes we would drive back at night, and one of the things they said was like animals can just be in the street,
Yeah.
or like
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the highway, and that's a big issue. And so yeah, I was worried that we would just like have like hit something. So driving back, but we're like tired, we want to get home, and I'm just like, go slow, like, And then one time there were a couple rattlesnakes on set that we had to have like use the grip equipment to like have people make sure they stayed over there so we could safely shoot over the other side. But yeah, just typical normal, totally normal. They're almost like documentary problems.
Yeah.
Have.
Like you're working for National Geographic or something.
Yeah, almost. Yeah. And so that was like something that we tried. We wanted these like naturalistic performances, and people kind of playing versions of themselves, but at the same time, we're shooting on film. We have a grip truck, like we have all of this equipment to make it like very classically shot, to kind of counter that. So we ran into a lot of documentary type issues.
Absolutely. What was it like working in 3 different languages on this film? I'm not sure what the native language was, but you've got Spanish for sure, and then just a touch of English too. But what was it like?
So it was interesting. So English, or actually, so Spanish was my first language as a baby. I knew Spanish first, then English, and then both my parents speak Spanish. My mom was actually born in Venezuela, and so we had a lot of Spanish in the house growing up. And then I took it in high school. So I I can really understand Spanish. Like if 2 people are speaking, I can pretty much get the gist of it, and I can read it pretty well. It's harder for me to generate my own.
Yeah.
But luckily, and Swemi didn't speak much English but luckily a lot, we're in Arizona, a lot of our crew spoke Spanish. And so that we could translate like that on set if I couldn't get across what I was trying to say to Swemi in either English or my terrible Spanish. And then for Otham, Amaya, so that's kind of one of the issues too down there is the grandparents' generation speaks Otham. And a lot of the kind of more adult, I guess their kids speak Otham pretty much. It's kind of, and then the kids don't as much. So like Amaya didn't speak Otham. She knew a bit, but she couldn't like converse fluently in it. And so Rupert, who played her dad, he was excellent. So he's a cop on the nation, and he could speak Otham. So he would help, and our 2 EPs obviously spoke Otham. So between the 3 of them, we were able to do the Otham in the film.
But it was really interesting because, and Jeff was talking a little bit earlier about what his inspiration was, or, his interest in making this film. And then, the preservation of language and culture is one of them. And then all the time we went down there, we realized how important it was. And then learned even more. And so, we discovered how it was only transcribed in more recently. And so what was interesting was when you're trying to be authentic and truthful, and then, like in doing our subtitles or explaining certain things, it's like, what word would this really be? And sometimes there was, like you're getting information from several different people in the community, and some people are saying, well, this is how you would say it, and some people are like, this is how you'd say it. So we were trying to be super careful about making sure within these 3 languages that we're really communicating what we're trying to communicate and accurately. But it wasn't the easiest thing, but it was also kind of like fascinating. Like it was like a constant study for us on language and what words mean and the transcribing, even the Virginia, the actress that plays Gagi, which is the grandmother, she was singing. And so we were looking at like singing in Autumn, singing in Spanish, and we were talking about these variations. And so it was fascinating.
It was, yeah, it was interesting. I forgot what I was going to say. You made a good point though. Yeah, it was really, really cool. It was really fascinating.
Because remember when they were talking about the word best friend?
Yeah.
Or and maybe even like I love you, or like there were some phrases.
There's like many ways to say love. There's different types of love: family love, friendship love, romantic love.
It's really beautiful.
Well, so the language has been around a really, really long time, but like Liz was saying, it wasn't actually written. It wasn't a written language until the 70s. And then it got, which is pretty recent, right? And it got transcribed into 2 totally different written languages within like 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
So that even complicates it even more. And then after 9/11, and then with the last administration, the border got militarized, and so they could, you couldn't go across the border to see your family, and that's been one of the big initiatives recently with the Him Dog community, the Him Dog group, which is basically to like preserve the language and get more people speaking it. I think there's only a few thousand native speakers now in the world, and it's the reservation is the size of Connecticut. It's massive. Wow. And that's just on the US side. But what's really interesting, which I just learned a couple of weeks ago, was because of COVID, they've been having a lot more of their meetings and stuff like that on Zoom. And so now these often from all over the world are participating in government and participating in the community and participating in the activities a lot more than ever before, which is really cool. I mean, that's amazing.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So I was really happy to hear that.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect that to be a side effect of COVID, but of course, like, if you think about it a little bit longer, you're like, oh yeah, of course. But that's incredible.
And that makes sense. So that even might help with language and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. What I would like to ask you both, what about the film are you most proud of?
Liz, do you want to go first?
I think that wasn't a question. I think that was a statement. Like, Liz, you go first. I guess I'm proud of so many things. Like, I think it's beautiful. I think, Jeff had a vision that he articulated to me that wasn't necessarily the easiest thing to execute. Given all the variables, the shooting on film, specific lenses, the anamorphic lenses, the style with which he wanted to, these longer takes, letting things play out. You're talking about non-professional talent. You're talking about children, all the elements. And so we really stuck true to that. Like, we might adjust slightly over the course of the production, but with him and our DP Cole, who was amazing, my other fellow producer Russell Schaefer, and his production company Artless Media was so helpful to us, and it was like something that we really wanted to, maintain that. Like, we're striving for this. Let's not give up. Let's not settle, and let's persevere. So I'm proud of that, and then I'm really proud of. I'm proud of the little girls. They did such a good job. They're so excited about the film. And I feel like the relationships that we made there, it's not so much that that's something I'm proud of. It's something that brings me a lot of joy. Like, I think this is a really important film. I feel like it's told in a really objective way, like through these children's point of view. And so I feel like, it just, I'm proud of the film, but it also makes me really happy. And just the connections we made there, the time that we spent there, like Jeff and I talked about how it's so different from our life. And then we came back and we're like, God, there's so many beautiful things that we learned through the making of this short film that impacted our own lives, that we've taken with us. And so I don't know if that really is the proud, but it's still, I'm really grateful. I'm grateful to the community. I'm grateful to the nation, and I'm grateful to the experience.
I mean, that pretty much sums it up. That's so true. Yeah, I'm really, I mean, it's true. We didn't have to make really any sacrifices. The order was tall, right? I mean, we got to pretty much do it how I wanted, which is like a dream. And I'm really proud of the performances, you know, just we found amazing people, really just good people all around. And yeah, like Liz said, just the experience itself was incredible.
It's hard to show or do everything that we would want to in a short film.
Yeah.
You can only touch on so many things, but again, you know, highlighting their language, showing some of their culture, the beauty of that, of the nation, and the desert, you know, like what we were able to do in that short time, you know, I'm proud of, and I'm looking forward to being able to show more of it in the future.
Absolutely. Have the actors, especially the girls, seen the movie? How did they react to themselves?
Maya saw it at Tribeca, like
oh, wow.
10 feet from the screen.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Her parents were both there and crying pretty much the whole time. And Larry was there, who's our EP from the nation. He was there as well. Yeah, she loved it. She came up at the end of, or in the middle of the Q&A. Well, so all the directors came up, and as I'm talking, I'm just looking over, and she's like,
oh my gosh, that's
to
so
me,
precious.
like every time I'm like, thank you for your support. Thank you so much for your support.
That is so cute. Oh
yeah.
my goodness.
So
I mean,
she loved it.
Ask for a better cheering section there.
Yeah, she was great. Liz was sitting with her.
Oh man. Well, thank you both so much for talking with us today about your film. One last question for you both. What can we expect from you next? What are you working on? Anything you have to plug or point people towards? Liz, you have another film in Tallgrass, if you want to talk about that too. And yeah, have at it.
Yeah, so right now, this short was really helpful in doing, research and, community building for this feature that we want to do down there. So the feature's set in the same world. It's a different story, much bigger scope, and we'll be able to highlight a lot more stuff that we are interested in. We're interested in highlighting, but had to omit from the short because the short's a short.
Yeah.
And then we're also working on a documentary series based on the sport that is in the film briefly.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, so there's a lot of very interesting things having to do with that sport, toca, and who plays it and where it comes from and how it kind of relates to the whole community, which is just fascinating. There's a lot of cool stuff with it. So we're working on making that a reality.
Incredible.
Yeah, and the script that, you know, Jeff has done research for years. And then we spent all that time down the nation. And then he just really like soaked up everything like a sponge. And so he had an idea for the feature set in the same world, but then through all the different stories that and all the things that he learned, he's kind of incorporated that into the feature. And it's like he said, it will highlight more of the culture, but there's also some genre in it, and it's a really like bigger scope of a film. It's beautiful and so interesting, and we're really excited about jumping into that. And it was like a Nichols, how did it place?
We got it was a quarterfinalist for the Academy Nichols Fellowship last year. Yeah,
it's incredible.
So we're excited.
And then yes, I have another feature that's kind of playing the circuit at the same time as Burros. It's called 7 Days. It's an Indian romantic comedy, and I did it with Duplass Brothers Productions.
Incredible. Awesome. Well, that is so wonderful. Thank you both for speaking with us today about your amazing film, and thank you so much for your time. And thank you all out there for watching and for supporting Tallgrass.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys.
So much.
Thank you so much. Bye.